Ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
Welcome to Spill the Booch! Oh, well, I guess we need some booch.
Yeah! We got better booch.
Always better booch. And we have cherry retreat, cherry, vanilla, and bergamot. And delicious.
You can open it a little bit.
No. I'm just getting so flashy. This is super exciting over here on Spill the Booch. Oh wow, I did that really there.
Aww.
Wow. Okay, Haley, what are we talking about? Oh no, wait, hang on, we gotta try it.
Okay.
Wow, we're really crushing the beginning of this. Whoa,
It's better than I thought it would be.
you taste the vanilla.
Really smell it.
I'm like,
You know how there's like the wine sommeliers? Well, kombucha sommelier.
I don't think we're quite there yet. But I appreciate your
There's hints of cherry. A
self-empowerment.
little bit of, I'm scenting some vanilla.
Oh, and is that bergamot? Can I taste on the back of my palate? Ooh, clarity is free. It reminds me of something. Oh, vanilla yogurt.
Yeah, it doesn't taste like yogurt, but it smells like it.
Like
For anyone who wants to buy this, it doesn't taste like yogurt.
that Oreo yogurt that I used to eat as a kid that I
Oh,
really
yeah.
loved with the chunks of Oreo in it. It reminds me of that. I think it's a me thing, not a you thing. I think you'll really enjoy this. But that was a memory I had from my childhood. Cool. Okay. What are we?
We're talking about the holidays today. Specifically Thanksgiving.
And we're talking about not going home for the holidays.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you talk about this first, Haley?
Okay. So for me, as people who have probably tuned, what happened? Did you spill?
I'm just having a time. I'm like Mr. Krabs over here. I'm like, everything has just gone wrong. Continue.
Okay. So for those of you who watched our Move Across the Country video, that hasn't come out yet.
Yeah, it has. Yeah,
It's
it
come
has.
out.
Yeah, it has.
Yay! So, for those of you who know, Dakota and I both moved from New England to California. She moved before I did, but I moved this past May, and this is the first major holiday that I'm spending away from my family. And I decided kind of not to go home because I wanted to go home for Christmas and actually like spend like a good chunk of time at home, and I kind of had to pick between the two because I'm going to be gone for like a couple weeks in December. And so obviously like travel time, stuff like that. And yeah, Thanksgiving is actually a pretty big holiday for my family, and it's something that it's almost like a week-long process to get ready for. And so the days actually leading up to Thanksgiving are some of my favorite days. And this is the first year that like I'm not gonna be able to do it, and it's definitely like bringing up some stuff that I didn't necessarily think was going to be brought up, but it's been really interesting, and it's made me really evaluate honestly like sacrifices that you make to do the things that you really want to do. And people always talk about sacrifices because I really moved here to start my own business and to make a network and a life out here. And I knew coming to California, specifically the LA area, would be really good for my business. And it has been, you know, I haven't been wrong about that. It's grown way faster, I think, than it ever could have if I had stayed in New England. But you know, people talk about sacrifices and they talk about you have to give things up sometimes to achieve your dreams. And I never really thought about that because for me it was always like, I'll do whatever it takes. I don't care about the emotions that are brought up as like a byproduct of it, because I know I can get through it, and that's still true. Like, I know that I'm still gonna get through it, but I didn't think of like the holidays that I would miss, or like the times when things happen with my family or my friends, or like weddings, or like things like that, even like birthdays that I'm not able to be present for because I made this decision. And sometimes it feels selfish that I did this, and it's not, but it's definitely something that has, you know, been brought up, and like a lot of guilt. But I know that sometimes with families and with holidays, like obviously it's a really happy time, and I'm fortunate enough that, you know, I have my parents still with me, which is really, like, I don't take that for granted for a second, and like I do have a wonderful family and all those beautiful blessings, and I do get to go home for Christmas. But no one really talks about, if you're not living the traditional like holiday life that is in the movies or is like depicted on even social media or things like that, like it brings up feelings for a lot of people, and no one really discusses that, or like how hard that can be. And so we really wanted to shed, I think, light on it, and that's like kind of my side of it. But what's yours?
Yeah.
You have a side.
Yeah. So it's interesting because I would say Thanksgiving used to be like a really great holiday in my family, but that was probably like 5 to 10 years ago. And like we used to have like my aunt and my cousins, and my uncle used to come, and my great uncle and my other uncle and my grandmother, and then we always just took like the misfits around town, and is what I like to call, like, it's just like if someone was like newly divorced and like they didn't have a family to go see, or like we just always had like randos at our Thanksgiving, and me and my mom would cook the whole thing, and it was just like this very beautiful, and like we had a tradition about like my eldest brother carving the turkey, and just like all these beautiful rituals around it. And then from my mom's passing away, at around that time too, my eldest brother got married and started doing Thanksgiving with his in-laws on the other side. And then my other brother was out living in Colorado or Wyoming and really could only afford to come home for one holiday. So he stopped coming back, and then we lived 2.5 hours away from our family back in New England. So less and less people started coming, and then my grandmother passed away. And so last year was kind of comical of a Thanksgiving, of like, it was my dad, it was my uncle, it was my great uncle and me, and like it really was just like 3 grouchy men that I cooked dinner for, and I was like, glad you really liked it. So that was, I really felt like after that I didn't have a big attachment to Thanksgiving, and that like I had chosen pretty shortly after that I just wouldn't be coming home the next year, because I did fly home for about 2 weeks for Thanksgiving last year, and I just kind of came and I was like, oh, I'm fine with that, I'm good. I'm like, it's not really a big holiday for me, it doesn't really matter to me. And like I had heard you talking about like how important it was and how you needed to make plans, and I was like, I'm just not really feeling like it's just another day, like I'll be thankful. And then it was weird because I think last week, because Thanksgiving is like a couple weeks away now, it like hit me, and I was like, oh, it's gonna feel really lonely, like seeing everyone post. And at that point too, I had talked to my other family members, and like Miles was still doing it with his in-laws, and Cody was doing it with his maybe soon to be in-laws, we never know.
It wasn't her brother.
And my dad is like doing some like Native American ceremony that weekend, and I was like, oh, it's not even a choice, you know, like there's no place for me to go. And I think that's where the emotions came up from, and I was like, wow, this is actually a lot more intense than I was thinking it was going to be. But then I'm lucky enough that I actually have an aunt who lives in Oregon, sort of like the state above us. And I know that a lot of the time, she gets lonely on holidays because she's not always invited to them. So I like reached out to her and I was like, oh, like, what are you doing, Aunt Sue? Like, do you want to have Thanksgiving together? And then I ended up somehow getting like invited to my cousin's in-laws Thanksgiving with my aunt. And now I'm like, oh my God, like this seems more of a hassle than what I was planning for. But I have to say, like, the biggest thing that I learned from that is as soon as I started noticing that I was going to have feelings of being abandoned or alone, I was so proactive about it. And I was like, oh, great, like, this is what's coming up for me. So, like, how can I create a solution instead of being in the day coming and then I, like, feel like shit on the day because I'm like, oh, I have no family and no one loves me, which is so far from true. So I feel like that was a really important lesson learning, that it was just like, oh, I'm reacting to this holiday different. And I think sometimes too, like the first time you do a holiday alone is always kind of have like some sort of game plan. Like even if I was to stay here alone, like maybe I would have gone and helped out at like a homeless shelter or something, and like always doing something so that you have the space to not feel alone if it's your first time ever doing it. Like if you've done Thanksgiving alone for 20 years and like you probably know what you're gonna feel like on that date, but for the first time I was like, or even too, like I'm sure I could have been like, hey Haley, can I come up with you to visit your friend in San Francisco if like other things have gone through, or like reached out to other friends that I have in the area and like seen if I could join in on their families, and like there was plenty of people I could have reached out to. So it just kind of allowing yourself that like feelings can come up, because I think and it was like, it's not even like I want to go home and have it with my dad, like not that I don't love him, but like the plane ticket probably would have been like $1,000, and
yeah, I was like, that was
I'm not sure that the like quality of time would have been equal to the amount of money and how short it was, and considering that like I'm gonna do that again in a couple of weeks. But like just realizing too that like it's more the fact that you're not having what everyone else is having.
Yeah.
And it's that, and that's where the sadness, and I think that as like the sadness comes from like being in a family of like the only girl, or like being in a family of a deceased parent, is like that sadness of like it's not going to be like how it used to be.
Yeah, I think that was like a big thing in realizing that almost like that old life that you were used to living and like the person that you were just is kind of gone.
Yeah.
And I think that's been a theme for both of us, and like probably especially this last year, was we both kind of had this idea of maybe who we were going to be when we were growing up, or even like a couple years ago, and like what we thought that we wanted. And then it changed so drastically, and then we changed so drastically, and we've had to come to terms with and say goodbye to the person that we thought that we were going to turn out to be, or the person that we thought we were going to want to be.
Yeah.
And it's so completely different than who we actually evolved into, and what we actually want now.
Yeah.
And so that, I think, was part of it too for me, was realizing like it's, as much as I love my family, who I'm becoming is so important to me.
Yeah.
And putting that person first is the most important thing.
Yeah.
And that was a really big thing too, and kind of similar to you, is like I was like, okay, like what can I do? And like luckily I have a friend in San Francisco that I also grew up with, and she's from New England, and she was going to be not going home either because she has to work, and I decided to travel on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And that's because I love to travel. Like I love airports. I don't know why, but like I love going to the airport, probably because it means I'm going somewhere, and I love to travel. But like I love going to the airport. I love getting on an airplane and like all that other stuff. And so, and like it's cheaper to travel on Thanksgiving than like the day before or the day after. And so I decided to travel on Thanksgiving. I'm kind of skipping the whole holiday, just like to be honest, in general. And just like I love Christmas, and we're going straight into like celebrating Christmas. And that was kind of like how we decided to approach it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was definitely like, it brought up feelings. It was
because it's weird because this is the
not
first time
expecting it.
I won't be cooking Thanksgiving dinner
Yeah.
ever in my life. Like, I've always assisted, and then I started taking it more and more on, and like, I mean, I guess technically, like, I know this Thanksgiving will have no plant-based food on it, so I will still be cooking my own plate of food and bringing it, but just like kind of having that realization of like, and that's okay too. And I think like I get so caught up in traditions that it's like, it's okay for them to look different. It doesn't devalue all of the previous years or all of the previous experiences that you've had just because it's different now. Like, the beauty is being around people and like sharing stories and memories and love and like support. And I think like we get caught up in like, it has to be exactly like that was a whole story I built after my mom passed away. It's like, I have to make the mashed potatoes exactly how she used to make them. And I was like, or I could try doing it a little different and it might actually be better. Like,
yeah,
you know, and like I think those are things too. And then I think also too, like, if the year that you're currently in or having, like if you're watching this on Thanksgiving Day and you're having a really shitty Thanksgiving, is like realizing that like this year might have sucked, but you can proactively make choices for next year.
Yeah,
and like if you're not loving this, like ask for what you need. Tell your family. Like if I had told my family, like, I need you to fly out to California for Thanksgiving, Dad, like he probably would have, you know, but like asking for what you need, and like, and if people say no, then asking other people in a different way for what you need, and like just setting up the support that you need. And like, it's never too late, and if it is too late this year, then like make next year better. Like, you don't have to keep learning the same lesson over and over again and making it really painful.
And too, because I know sometimes people don't have a ton of family, so if you if you don't have a ton of family, like I consider my friends my family, and being able to have that experience and share that experience, like I love Friendsgivings. Like, I think they're so much fun. I've done them like
I used to have so many of those.
Like since I was in college, and like those were a blast to have. And like there's always, especially I feel like in California or around where we live, or if you live in an area where a lot of people move to and not necessarily grow up in, there are so many people who don't go home for the holidays.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because especially like when it's between Thanksgiving or Christmas, like a lot of people choose Christmas.
Yeah.
And so having a Friendsgiving is so much fun to do. Yeah. So that's another option that you can take too. Or even go on a retreat by yourself and like honor yourself and do self-care and self-love.
And even like asking a friend who is local, like I said, like my family used to always take in the misfits, and like my friend Jess, I know if I asked to go home and do Thanksgiving with her and her like 5 siblings, she would be like, heck yes, you can, you know. So it's like just asking for what you need, you know. And like Thanksgiving is literally about like being grateful and like sharing your food with others. Like most people aren't going to say no to like you joining the table. Yeah. Unless if you physically can't fit another body in their house.
Yeah. And most people, like, the world is actually filled with really good-hearted people, regardless of what the news tries to tell you. The world is mostly good and mostly filled with love. Yeah. And it's very rare where someone's going to say no to someone coming over.
Yeah.
Unless you're like, they don't know you whatsoever. But
yeah, if it's a stranger, like, and you're looking, like if you're walking through Whole Foods and someone has a turkey in their basket, and you're like, hey, could I come over for Thanksgiving? Like, they might say no.
But, you know.
But if you ask enough people, you might get a yes. You never know. Or like, if you're a really bad person, they might say no.
Yeah, but we're assuming
like, you're not.
If you're watching this, then you're not. And we like to assume everybody's really good inside. So I don't think that's the case, but it's okay if you have feelings around it. And I think I'm someone who is like, I try to be so mentally tough and like convince myself that I almost like don't have emotions around certain things. And then when something does, I'm like, oh, maybe I do have to like look at this and explore what exactly this means and like just feel it, and that's okay. Yeah. And then let it go. Like, don't wallow in it, or like don't create your own misery. Like, don't.
Yeah,
it's almost like
feel
that
it,
spiral. Yeah.
Be in it,
Fix it.
release it, and find a solution so it doesn't
Yeah.
have to happen again.
Yeah. Because you always can.
Yeah.
You can always figure something out.
And emotions, like, life is a roller coaster, and like there's other things coming up for me right now, and I'm just in the feeling it. And then it's like, great, and now I'm gonna make a solution, and now I'm gonna make sure that I support myself better in the future to not get here again. And like that can be around anything in life, that these ebb and flows come, and it's just about growing and learning, but not having the expectation that it's never gonna happen again, because like it will. We're always changing, and we're humans. We have a heck ton of emotions in us.
Yeah. And like maybe you can make a new tradition that's really awesome and really cool. Like, let's give you a start of something. Like, sometimes the most unexpected things become the most like cherished memories.
Like, have you ever watched a Hallmark movie?
Or friends.
Or Friends? That's a whole bunch of weird things turning into great memories.
It's the whole premise, essentially.
Because things go wrong and then they go right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we really just didn't want people to feel alone, because we know that sometimes this situation, or this kind of situation, can be isolating.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
we also know a lot of people deal with it and go through it, and that's okay.
Yeah. So, we love you. And we hope you have an amazing day.
Yeah.
And that you support yourself around the holidays this year.
Yeah. And if you are going home and you're a little nervous for it, and you don't want to expel too much energy, make sure you take care of yourself and set up boundaries and honor your energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.